Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our closing session. It's been a long but engaging day, at least for me, and I hope it's been the same for all of you. We've had a great day of learning from our peers. So hope you all have taken away a few points from all the sessions you've attended. Now I welcome you all to the closing session, and we have Morali Keller from National College Attainment Network, who will be giving our closing remarks, followed by Chandra Scott. Morali has been with us from the beginning, from the inception point of Alabama College Attainment Network. She has been there guiding us through this. And so, Morali, I'll now hand it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Chandra. And Manisha, thanks so much for the invitation today to offer some closing remarks. Let me start by just giving lots of kudos to the state of Alabama. First of all, for a great conference today. I've listened to a lot of the sessions. You all have offered some really good information for folks that have joined you today. I will say kudos to the statewide network. It has been my pleasure to work and from the very beginning to envision what a statewide network would look like in Alabama, and to see one come to fruition is great, and so much of that work driven by Alabama Possible is fabulous. NCAN always likes to take our hat off and applaud the states that have a universal FAFSA requirement. So our hats off to Alabama for having that. And also, I know it was mentioned in the opening session how well you've done. And yeah, for the class of 2022 last year, Alabama finished 9th in the country in FAFSA completion rate. A number that was a lot higher than the class of 21 or 20 or any of those earlier ones. So again, kudos. And when we take a look at the numbers right now, you're 3.4 percentage points ahead of where you were this time last year. So who knows what the final spot will be when the school year's over. I'm guessing you'll still be in that top 10 and maybe even higher than 9th. So congratulations. You know, you guys just need to keep up the good work. To go to your conference thing, you have, and you are changing the narrative of what's happening in Alabama. So NCAN takes its hat off and congratulates the Attainment Network for all the work you've done. One of the things they asked me to just kind of touch on in the closing moments is that we know that you have this FAFSA requirement, but we have a lot of changes coming next year. So for the class of 2024, they're going to have a different FAFSA experience. Now, they'll be new at it. They won't know the FAFSA is different. Those of us that have been around for a while will feel the difference, but just want to bring a few key points so that you can begin to think about it. Typically, the FAFSA opens on October 1. With this huge transition, the Department of Education has announced that they are not going to open the FAFSA until December next year. They have not provided the specific date yet, but it is not going to open till December. That is going to have some impact particularly in the states that have FAFSA as a graduation requirement, because you're going to lose anywhere between 60 and 90 days during the senior year that students could be completing the FAFSA or, perhaps filling out their opt-out form. We are going to have to change our vocabulary. The expected family contribution, that EFC phrase that we've used for years and years, is going to become the Student Aid Index, or the SAI. So we're going to have to get used to some new vocabulary. Next year, everybody, to even get into the FAFSA, will have to have an FSA ID. And they're going to have to grant permission for their income information to come over from the IRS, even if they were a non-filer or filed a foreign tax return or things like that. The way they wrote the legislation, everybody has to give permission whether you technically have anything at the IRS or not. There will be a process next year for those without Social Security numbers to get an FSA ID. So it will be a totally electronic process, which is really great news to hear. We've had a situation for a long time for our students who were eligible to file the FAFSA but may have had undocumented parents. They were printing a signature page and trying to put it in the mail, and oftentimes having to print it or do it 2 or 3 times before it was eventually matched up with the FAFSA. So it'll all be electronic next year with the signatures. The form will move into a very role-based type online form. If you log in as the student, you will only see student questions next year. If you log in as a parent, you will only see parent questions. So you will not be able to see the other sections depending on how you log in. Another piece of good news is the form will honestly be quicker You'll see less screens that you'll have to navigate through because all this information that's going to get transferred from the IRS. All that income information is going to come over. They eliminated a lot of unnecessary questions. So probably completing a FAFSA once you're in it will be quicker next year, maybe than it's ever been. A couple things to have to take into consideration, though, is one of the things that Congress has done is put a change in the formula that for families who have multiple students in college, that number in college is not a factor in the formula next year. So families that may have multiple siblings in college at the same time may see a dramatic jump in their SAI with literally no change in the income. Simply the change in the formula might result in a higher SAI. We're also in the position starting next year for families that are required to report assets, and that's only going to predominantly be our families that have $60,000 AGI or above. In the past, they were able to not report a business value if the business had less than 100 employees, or they did not have to report a family farm value. Starting next year, those things are no longer exemptions. They will have to report all business values, all net values, and the net value of the family farm. So those will be some modifications next year that we'll need to keep in mind as we do the form. Because the process will be so different and the form is different, training will be really critical. So any training available next year in Alabama, we strongly encourage everybody to take advantage of it. School counselors, all kinds of folks. We're going to be in the position where everybody needs training for next year. So please take advantage of what is offered by Alabama Possible next year so that everybody's up to speed on the new form. You know, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the power of having a network. You've seen the power today. You've seen the event brought to you by the Attainment Network. That isn't something that happens easily. It takes a lot of coordinated effort for it to happen. I wish I could say that all states in the country had a college attainment network, but they don't. So the ones that do really have a leg up on the other states in trying to coordinate information, data, collaboration, cooperation, partnerships. Those statewide networks have a leg up. Most networks fill some kind of gap in the state. What was missing? You don't create a statewide network to duplicate other work that's being done. In many cases, that effort is FAFSA completion and FAFSA training, right? That's often a very common priority of a statewide network. A good network also represents all kinds of sectors of college and career pathways, and Alabama Attainment Network certainly does that. Statewide networks are great conveners. They can bring all key education stakeholders together for events like this, other types of meetings and conversations. Personal bias, statewide networks deserve financial support from all different kinds of places, from the post-secondary path, from the career path, college access path, college success path. Networks deserve support because they are attempting to bring all sectors together and serve a purpose. I think you all need to consider your network a badge of honor for your state, just like the other states who have them. So I'll close there and say congratulations again for a great day. Thank you for the invitation. And I just get excited every time I see great things happening in Alabama. So kudos to you all, and I'll turn it over to Chandra.
Well, Morley, thank you for your leadership in getting us to where we are. And I have to say, I can't be more proud of the work that's happening in our state and how we are moving forward, but there's still much to be done. And before this day closes, I just want to give many thanks to so many people who made today possible, starting with our small but mighty Alabama Possible team. Hands off to all that you all have done. This was a heavy lift, but you made it look seamless. And thank you. We had a few technical difficulties, but you got through it like champs. And I want to say thank you to all of you. Thank you to all of our panelists today, our dynamic food for thought speaker, Kathy Boswell. Actually, I would say food for thought and living. She gave such a dynamic keynote speech today. And thank you to every presenter who made today as rich as it's been. It's your presentations that really made today great. And so again, thank you to our sponsors, the Lumina Foundation and AT&T, for sponsoring lunch, and for Lumina Foundation making the conference free for all of you who are in attendance today. And so again, I thank all of you, and we wish you to have a great rest of your day.